that's all it is. The generators really to like generate a city, but those are steam. That's what's called nuclear. Like is new and is clear. They're just having to play on words, but yeah, nuclears. They're not gonna give the custodians of this world are not gonna give weapons to just ordinary humans that are just the middleman. Just running the show.
Right. Well, thanks for being on Firehorse. I'm Veronica Bartolini with Codebreaker Real Talk, and I'm pretty sure we're live. I'm just going to double check. Yeah, we're live. Thanks for being on. I appreciate you being on. And we were just talking about, I was telling Firehorse, he's been on my show quite a few times, and his wife too. Just look up Firehorse and Veronica Bartolini, and you'll find it on either the playlist or go on Codebreaker Real Talk, because he's also been on Unchained Hearts when I had that channel. So I was telling Firehorse, and I just posted some videos and a picture. Let me see if I can go into my email so I can show you what I'm talking about. Let me show you something. And then Firehorse was talking about how, we live like in a Truman Show. We're always like being placed in fear. And I said, yeah, people are talking about nuclear war. And then you said something about nuclear, and I told you, hey, that guy that was eating something radiated in the 50s, he was fine. There's nothing wrong with, he didn't die or anything. What did you call it? Nuclear?
Yeah, nuclear, like it's clear. It's not really, it's just like, the power plants that you see with the steam coming up is just water and steam that they use for, just generating power, for the cities. So there's really no such thing as like, like nuclear weapons. Like if you see like in the old, film, reels that they had where like they're testing nuclear weapons and you see the houses being blown into oblivion, those are models. If you look at that and you pay close attention to like the old Godzilla movies and then the reels from nuclear testing from the US, they're basically the same thing, the same models, that are just like that they just Hollywood, that they just put that illusion in front of you to like have fear all the time, and like the kids going underneath the table. It's like, okay, we're gonna do drills and all that stuff. That's child abuse. That's kind of messed up looking back on it.
That's what I had to do when I was a kid, is go under the desk because of like an earthquake or nuclear. I'm like, how is that going to help you if you're nuclear? It's all going to be gone. And it's supposedly, well, now the bomb that was Hiroshima, I remember, he saw visions of everything going to ash. So there has to be something to do with the plasma weapons of the ETs that we'll just call them ETs, but they're humans with technology. It's the government, he had a vision, he had a dream of how the people were like going up like in smokes, and then it was just all ashes and it was all gone. I don't know why it's not showing. Come on, let me have my channel back.
You mentioned Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and this is going to be very interesting, but that was kind of a cover story because I've recently discovered this is kind of fascinating because history kind of repeated itself with Venezuela. But the bombs that were bombing in Venezuela is because you have this like what the Bible called Leviathan, the serpent. The serpent that, if you Google Earth and all that stuff, there's a lot of dragons that are frozen. And because of the global warming that's going on, they're emotional and stuff. But anyway, there was a dragon also where the head was enormous. In Nagasaki and Hiroshima, those were the two eyes of the dragon. That's how big the dragons was, and that's in the weakest point. To try to kill the dragon is to just put a bomb like where the eye is to kind of explode the brain, because they're kind of mystical creatures that are hard to kill. You can't kill like a freaking like a magical dragon that was here before our realm kind of changed to the reality that we're living in now. But the same happened also when Venezuela were like, oh, they're dropping bombs in Venezuela. And they were really dropping the bombs in Venezuela because they were hitting the 2 points that they were hitting. It's like the 2 eyes of the dragon, Leviathan, the sea serpent, that the head of it is like close to Venezuela, and it goes all the way to like thousands of miles. It's kind of, frightening, but because of all this that's going on, that's why you have all this like distraction of the Epstein files. You have this distraction of the nuclear weapons or World War III, when in reality is
look at what do you see the screen? Look at what I took a picture of today, and many pictures. So this is the head, the eye, and this is part of his head. It goes down here. There's the esophagus right there. It goes to his chest. Okay. And then here's a mantid's head. So these, and then there's another picture that shows a dragon. So I see things, and I know that they're going south. They popped up over the Catalina Mountains about an hour ago. I took pictures. I did a live video, and it kept going in and out because they just didn't want me to show them. And I kept saying hi. I'm like, I see you. Like, I know you're here. Let me so anyway, they were going south. Yeah, elementals. And then here's another, I think this one. Okay, so you see the ship? There's a ship here. See the back of it is right here, like the tail part. And it's like this is pulling. And then here, there's the dragon nose. The dragon, 2 eyes, 1 eye here, 1 eye there. That's the dragon face. Do you believe me when I tell you that I see things like that? Have you seen them? See, there's another ship right here.
Yeah, I knew a girl that had that same gifts, that was able to see, like, the dragons, up in the skies, the fairies, the elementals.
Here's the head. 1, 2, 3. That's part of his head. It's just really interesting. And then there's an eye, a nose. I just see so many. And then I see the ships, and I'm like, oh my gosh, at first, when I first had my, because I would see them when I was a kid too. But my mom would say, oh no, it's el diablo. It's from the devil. So she kind of like put this religion in the church. And then I was like, but I still believe in them. And I used to play with mantids when I was a kid, like the little mantids, the stick figures. And my dad would say, I know, don't touch it. It's poisonous. And I'm like, they're fine, Dad. They talk to me.
They're mantis beings, mantis beings that lives in the inner earth.
I saw them full on today, because usually I'll see like what I call wispies, like they're like little, like if you've seen the movie Avatar, the third one, where they're coming in these crates to trade like whatever food, coffee, whatever it is, gems, whatever they need, conchas. They come in these crate ships like this, and then the wispies are the beings, like you said, the interdimensional beings that they're like jellyfish. And to me, I always call them the wispies or jellyfish. And it wasn't until I saw the movie Avatar 3 that it's like, whoa, I'm not nuts. You know what I'm saying? It's not showing it here, but there it is. Okay, let me go a little. Okay, you see that right here? Oh crap, I have to put it bigger. No, little, more small. Okay, so that's the head right there, and he has something on this, like in the back of his head, and then it goes down like this. And the thorax is right here, the neck. And here, around here, is the mantid's head. He looks different from this guy. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, this show is about Firehorse. Let's get back to Firehorse. What have you been doing? Hey, can you believe that guy took down all of our videos? Can you believe he took, what was his name?
Oh, it's the Galactic Talk.
Mario. Yeah, Tanya from Galactic Talk took down all of my videos and then he took down all of yours. What the heck?
Well, there's a connection, I guess, because because the only two people that I was doing podcasts with was you and Taino. It's just to help the small community with the people, because if I really wanted to be, I'm not, if I really wanted to be like, all right, let me be a podcast, let me get tons of followers, but I'm not really like that. Um, I'm
Yeah.
more like I just want to tell people what's going on, instead of like, because you have a lot of podcasters that read certain esoteric books, this and that, or have lectures and raids, or like, all right, people, this is what I got for you, and it's like, nah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I I my life is kind of esoteric, as you know, so I'd rather just tell people, my experiences from, I guess, the day I was born. So I guess I'll start from that. When they say like, where do you start? Your story. I said, well, I'm gonna start from the freaking very beginning. So like, okay, when I was a child, before I went to kindergarten, even when I went to kindergarten, um, I I was awake. My mom was asleep. My brothers and sisters were my sisters were asleep. My brother wasn't born yet. And then I was looking at the lighting fixture, and then the lighting fixture morphed into what I believe, like all my life, was like an alien. It just like, I didn't remember what it was. All I remember is like it morphed and it was like an alien. And we were just talking nonchalantly. And then after that, when my mother was waking up, and then I said, "Oh, there's my mom waking up. Let me continue talking." And then I went, and then the whatever being that I didn't remember, I thought it was an alien, morphed back into that lighting fixture. And the only thing I remember from that conversation was like, you have a destiny, and then, during the day I was playing with toys going like, okay, I have a destiny. I have a destiny. I didn't know what the word destiny meant too. And then through the years, I always thought like, what the hell did the aliens want with me? What had to do with destiny, this and that. And then coming now through what I'm starting to learn through TikTok and other social medias about the Gate Project. The Gate Project is where they test all the kids, in first grade, second grade, to find certain abilities that they have. Um, Kind of like the movie The X-Men, because they know that we're born with special abilities and special gifts. Everybody is. That's what the show Heroes is based upon, like certain people that are just born with gifts, and throughout the world, they are always seeking these people. Maybe they even like follow their, where they reincarnate their souls, because certain people are just like these powerful beings that are just for purposes like the Starseeds are here to change, or bring enlightenment, expanding on enlightenment and all that. So through the years, like I always had like this thing where I would read people's vibrations. I would know what they're thinking and all that. And I always thought that, everybody had that special ability to be, I guess, empathic, telepathic. I didn't know I was telepathic until 2011, when a PSYOP operation rolled up on me, and they kind of knew more about me than I did, or more about my abilities than I did. And for me, I know I have certain abilities, but my mind was kind of like reeling to like, how did they know? How did they know? Like I don't do podcasts. I don't talk about anything yet. I wanted to do everything knowledge and just bring it into like film entertainment, but at the same time enlightening and expanding consciousness through entertainment. You know, so in 2011, when a PSYOP operation rolled up on me, where wow, it was like, okay, like in 2009, because I was into filmmaking, writing, and all that, and in Craigslist, there's a creative gig section. We're looking for writers and screenwriters, and then there one particular guy was looking for like a screenwriter to write his life story, and he mentioned reincarnation. And I know the science behind reincarnation, but I put that on a pin, because I will expand on it, because the moon is made to attract the souls in to reincarnate them into, just coming back on this earth. And one of the ways that you could break out of the matrix or out of to reincarnate is to not follow the light, to just go within inner, because they try to lure you to that light. We're like, here's your pet dog Fluffy, or here's your grandma, or here's your girlfriend, that died early. Anything to bring you back to, like, you could go back in the cycle, and that moon
I'm
was
glad you
brought in.
agree.
Yeah,
I'm
the
glad you
moon.
agree because I always
Yeah.
tell people don't go into the light because I went into the light and I had to come back. And a lot of people disagree with me, even these big podcasters, but I still tell people don't go into the light. Even
Yes.
though they try to you know to tell me with their whatever evidence, scientific whatever. And it's like, no, you're right. They will put your mom, your dad, your grandma, come over here. Come over here. And that's a lie. Mm-mm. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. You could even tell AI. He was like, hey, what's the purpose of the moon? They're gonna go into details and they'll tell you exactly what we're saying right now. Um, so let's see. So I believed in reincarnation and all that, and then he mentioned Bruce Lee, and then me growing up, I was fanatic like half of the world is with Bruce Lee, and but I had a special connection with him because ever since like a child, I would see the funeral homes and the funeral Bruce Lee and all that. I would break out and crying. I was like, how could I freaking people that I know that I died and all that, and I don't have that much affection as I have for this person. And then in 2010, I met this woman who claimed to have been a clone, and I kind of believe her, but she's also a channeler. And then she just went into details of like the connection that Bruce Lee was my son from a second marriage, the sixth son, that in a past life thing. So I guess it had to do with a past life thing. But anyway, that's how I got reeled in. But I didn't know behind that ad in Craigslist going like, hey, I'm seeking a writer, that to write about reincarnation about Bruce Lee. But he didn't go out. That was a CIA agent that I didn't know at the moment. But he says like, yeah, we should talk. And then over the phone, when we start to talk, and getting into some esoteric deep stuff, he goes like, I'm going to tell you something. I'm the reincarnated Bruce Lee. And I believed it. I believed it because I always follow synchronicity. So I figured that this was part of the synchronicity of me growing up studying everything about him, like intellectually, like artistically, philosophically. And I believed them, and so then he lived in New Jersey, and then him and his wife and the kids that were trying to get away from New Jersey, trying to take their kids away from them. He needed a place to hide out, and then I had like this nice big house, or apartment, in the Bronx. And I invited him to stay over. I said, stay over as much as you can and all that stuff, not realizing that I was part of the PSYOP operation to, bring the enemy freaking to sleeping with the enemy, to have him like in my home. But I believed he was Bruce Lee. And the thing is like, it was kind of weird and surreal because when we first met and we started to talk and smoke weed, and we started to just talk about like, how Paul McCartney is not the real Paul McCartney, and how I met the fake Paul, as they call it. I worked in a Madison Avenue fancy deli. He had come in with his like then girlfriend, MTA, like a woman, brunette. I forgot her name, or who she is, but anyway. So then people, when he walks in, people go, oh my gosh, Paul McCartney, Paul McCartney, Paul McCartney. And everybody's, like excited. And I'm going like, that's not Paul McCartney. He's not the real Paul McCartney, and then, there was a Jamaican guy that was there too. And he was conscious. He was the only one that kind of listened to it. He was like, what do you mean he's not Paul McCartney? I said, well, the real Paul McCartney, was replaced in 1966 with this one who knows music theory. He's a better musician, and his name is Billy Shears. As they drop clues in it in the Sgt. Pepper's album and all that. So then, as I'm saying this, they're like, yeah, because they wanted the girls to freak out and commit suicide because they love Paul. He was the best. He was the favorite of the band. Blah blah blah. And then, as I'm saying this, he's with his girl looking at the display of all the food in there, and then he slowly like just looks up at me like, and I'm like shocked. I was like, oh shit, he's kind of heard me because I'm just talking within earshot. I didn't figure he would hear me, but he was just shocked. He just looked at me, and I'm like just waved at him and said like, okay, But anyway,
there's these suits that you can like there's hopefully there's like this video that's going around in TikTok or wherever saying that she's she would be cleaning for Airbnbs, right? And that the guy would say he was always on his phone, always wearing a suit. He would just say, "Put my clothes on my bed." Well, one day she went into his closet and she found a suit that looked just like him. It just had the little holes here in the nose, here in the eyes, and the ear. And I'm like, those people, the CIA, have been wearing suits for a long time. It doesn't matter. You just step in and you could look just like Paul McCartney. You could look like just the president. But then we also have clones. I think we're clones. I think all humans are clones. I mean, they grow us in the lab, right?
Well, no, there's certain races that they did grow in a lab in petri dishes because an Neanderthal, am I pronouncing this right? The Neanderthal.
The Neanderthal, yeah.
Yeah, they extinct, but they were recreated in a petri dish that kind of like I guess they're like the foot soldiers for the elites, to do the dirty work and all that stuff. But speaking of that, with the skin suits, real quick, everybody the buzz right now, Jim Carrey, look, he looks different. He looks like, oh, they killed Jim Carrey. Look, he doesn't look like Jim Carrey. That's because that is Keanu Reeves playing Jim Carrey.
Totally
and Jim Carrey is playing Keanu Reeves, with the beard. Like you see with the beard and all that stuff. So they like to mess with people's heads. They love to mess with people's heads. And I'll tell you just a quick one because I could go forever on this. Next time we'll talk about fallen angels and who these people are.
We got whatever. We got 2 hours. Whatever time you have, we got it.
Okay, but those I want to provide pictures and analysis and all that stuff because the Psyops thing that's going to take a while, and I don't want to drag it too much because people's attention, expands is like but that's going to definitely be that's like a sign note. But just to quickly just say, Jim Carrey is playing Keanu Reeves, and Keanu Reeves is playing Jim Carrey. And you can tell by the nose because Keanu Reeves has a straighter nose, and then if you see like a Keanu Reeves with like the nose that has like a little like that's Jim Carrey. Plus their eyes look different too, and you can tell the color of their eyes and all that stuff. But I'll tell you one more. Bad Bunny, just so you know the hype with Bad Bunny and all that stuff. He is Enrique Iglesias.
He totally looks like him.
Yeah, he's in disguise as Enrique Iglesias. And then we mentioned about suits, fat suits. Remember the artist Al B. Shore? Well, Al B. Shore played Big Pun in a fat suit. And what's the other one? Fat Joe, another Latin or Spanish rapper, is in a fat suit as well, and he is played by the guy that sings Forever Young. I forgot the name of the group, but he, Forever Young, but he plays him. So it is like going back to Albert Pike saying like, if they need heroes, we will supply them heroes, that they will provide the idols and all that stuff that people could worship. So like that, they, through them, and social engineering and all that predictive programming is just to program the people that follows the stars, like all the girls I was following Miley Cyrus, and then after that Miley Cyrus comes out of her mouth, it's like, oh, gender fluidity, so is agendas after agendas after agendas. But anyway, I'm gonna just try to stick with the Psyop thing. So anyway, going back to that. So then my first time meeting Lee and his family, he was been in jail. 3 months have passed since I wrote the letter, and we spoke to each other going, where is he and all that stuff. We had met get out of jail because he's kind of a he's definitely like he described that he was a CIA agent, but like an urban think tank, that he would go infiltrate like gangs and all that, selling drugs. So he would just like infiltrate. But he was a rogue because he always switched sides. He would go there, it's like, all right, look, I'm an agent and all that stuff, but I'm not gonna do anything to you guys. I'm just gonna warn you guys, and this is the time that they come. This is what they do. This is this. And by the way, roll up a fat one for all of us. He was like that. He was crazy, and he was a loose cannon, Lee. But he was fascinating, and one of the things I know is when we first met on the first day that we were smoking, I'm telling him about Paul McCartney. I guess that's what got me off into that, thing with the people. Anyway, and he's fascinating, and we're talking. Throughout the whole night, I look at him, and then I look like this guy looks different, like he morphed. And I'm looking at him, we're like, why does he look like Grandpappy, like Uncle Pappy from Popeye? He looked at like old. First he had like this teeth, like Ryan's Gosling, looking like handsome. And then throughout the night, I see he's like an old man, and I'm going like, what the hell is going on? And then I realized that he had these dentures that he had taken off. And the reason he had all these dentures is like when he first joined the alphabet, gang, the CIA, one of the things that they do, you have to remove all of your teeth. So if you're caught on a mission or whatever, they cannot identify who you are, And just by pulling your teeth, you could look like a totally different person. I was like surprised, and he told me that. And we're talking through the whole night, and then he starts to telling me about like the telepathy, air bending. Do you want to learn from me? Ever since you was a kid, you always wanted to learn from Bruce Lee, right? From me, you want to learn air bending and telepathy and all that. I say, hell, fucking yeah, of course. I want to learn from you. And it's like, who doesn't want to learn from Bruce Lee? So so when we're talking all night, and he has like I don't know, for some reason, I don't know, like the ecstasy, for some reason you have better access to to telecommunication anyway. So he gave me half of that, and I half of that, and all that stuff, to feel the relaxing and the movement and all that stuff. And then we went into the park. Now this is the Bronx. This is the Bronx. So here I'm going with him. He leads me to the park, and because I have studied martial arts before, and I know Tai Chi and animal style, Kung Fu, so it's easy for me to just go with the flow with stuff. So when he started going, like, the air has consciousness, if you could just like, talk to the air and kind of become with the air and like do all. Now you have a lot of videos. This is back in 2011. This is back in 2011. Before now, you have all these cats, putting aluminum foil and all that stuff, and moving objects with their hands and controlling the wind, or the elements. A lot of people can control the elements and all that stuff. So then in my mind, I was thinking, like, how does he know that I can do stuff like this? How did they know? Because in the long run, I didn't find out till like after 6 months of hell, because later on it turned to hell, because he had moved in, and I don't know, there's a movie with Michael Keaton, and that he moves into this newlyweds house that was renovated, but he turns out to be like a mofo, and he ruins a whole fucking place and all that stuff. And so that's what kind of like he did. He was like a nice guy and all that stuff. Once they moved in there, and I was isolated from my family and this and that, because they just wanted to like first find out what I can do. And I didn't know I can do anything except that, I don't know, they know energy, and that's able to read people's aura. I think through they have their means and technology to look at people's aura and find out if you can see dead people, if you are a telepathy, if they know your abilities through seeing your aura, and they kind of cut that from science books and all that stuff, because that's how they control people, through aura, and the 5G thing that's going on is just really to control people's really evolving to the next step of the human evolution, because these fallen angels knows that we are going to be more powerful than they are, and they always had this superiority, these immortals that are controlling the world. You have like what is it, 200 fallen angels, and then 200 craters. The craters that you see are impact from the fallen angels that fell to the earth, the falling stars, as they say. That's what they say when they're like, look, a falling star. That's a falling angel. The symbology of the Walk of Fame in Hollywood with the stars on the floor, that means the falling angels. When you see Paramount Pictures and then the mountains and then those stars going around that mountain, that's the name. I forgot the name of that mountain, but I'll get into details when I talk more about falling angels. But I forgot the name of that mountain.
Caucasus? Is that the Caucasus Mountain? Is it the Caucasus Mountain or Mount Shasta?
No, not one of those. It's another one.
It's Iran.
Yeah, it's another mountain.
That's in Iran.
And then you see those stars. I think it's 22 stars that ascended on that mountain and all that. I'll look through all my notes and I'll do all that. But anyway, so that's what they're afraid of. So I didn't know. So then so in the morning we go and then we start to do, he wants to start to teach me, how to do air bending. And when we're going there, I notice like when there, because we're in the Bronx, this is the Bronx. You don't really see like model types of male and female jogging in the Bronx, So I see like a black guy, tall, looks like a model, and then a white woman, blonde hair, tall as a model, and they're both like jogging and going around like the park. And I'm like going in my mind, this is in Central Park. This is the Bronx, This is where we just have like, just like Blacks and Puerto Ricans and Jewish people, in this neighborhood. You don't see people like this. And then a van across the street. I was already being monitored. And the thing was interesting too, is like he said, look, I'm CIA, I run stuff. They follow me, I know certain people, and I say like, all right. And I'm thinking in my head, yeah, sure. But when we're going down the stairs before we hit the park and we open it right there in the front of my building in a car, outside is like these two Irish guys, because he was Irish, Lee, his name is Lee. Ironically, like, reincarnated Bruce Lee, because he said his father named him Lee, named after Lee Iacocca. So, he says like, Bono and the Irish, the I think the Irish Republican Army, that he has connections with those and all that. And then I started believing, because I heard the two voices that they had Irish accent. It was like, hey, good morning. It was like top of the morning. And then he looks at me. He was like, you see, those guys are protecting me. And that night, before that night, I in the kitchen window, I looked out the window and see like a star, like close up, like a UFO. And I'm going like, what the hell is that? And I go like, Lee, come here. And I was like, what's that? And he looks out the window. He goes like, oh, that's a drone. And he laughs. And then he goes to, and I said, a drone? What the hell is a drone? Remember, 2011. I never heard of a freaking drone. They didn't know that existed. This is 2011. So when I saw that, he's like, it's a drone. And then within that week, they had placed cameras on the floors, on every floor of the building where I live. And then across the street, cameras there. And then every night when he'd be chain smoking by the window and freaking throwing the butts out the window, we're like, don't fucking do that. He's an asshole. So he would say, you see that guy with that German Shepherd right there? Like that German Shepherd dog is like $1 million dog that was trained to sniff bombs. I'm like, why the fuck are they have bombs? Like, like, why is this being a target all of a sudden and all that stuff? So it's like, I didn't ask a lot of questions, but my mind was reeling and trying to like absorb everything and kind of like going like, okay, what's kind of going on here? Because it became surreal the minute I was with him, and the minute it was like they showed their hand. We always talk about, oh, the Illuminati, but that's it. You read about it, but this is me where stuff that I knew existed, but then it was like there, like I was just going, what the fuck, like intertwining with certain people that were a part of that group that conspiracy people talk about. But I was just seeing the whole picture of like going, this is a club that even like with non-immortals, but you have like they're all connected. The high-ranking police officers, the firemen, the ambulances, they're all like not everyone that's there, but the higher ups that they have that connections with the Masons and all that. Because all of a sudden you started seeing like all these people like coming in, like looking like checking me out. And then in my mind, I'm going like, okay, I want to know who I am. That made me interested in find out who I am, because why are these people interested in me? And that kind of, became my obsession. It's like, what's going on? And then, just learning stuff. So then I started to do, with the wind and understanding. Even though I was a natural when it comes to, like energy and stuff like that, because in a past life, I was definitely like a martial artist. Every time I kind of, when I would go on these vision quests, taking shrooms, and I would always tap into that, because I know in my past life I was a Chinese, and that Chinese martial artist, when he did shrooms, we kind of tap, because I just wind up coming up with these. What in kung fu, when you do all this and all that, that's really hand magic. They realize like, okay, they think it's kata and all that stuff, but that's really like hand magic that you're doing. So so I would tap into that and start doing like, where the hell did this come from and all that stuff, and then it just reminds you like, okay, that's why I deeply love, the martial arts. I always was intrigued and admire Asian, women and all that stuff, because of that part of my soul that was so connected with like, the country and practicing martial arts, and all that. That's always been kind of dear to me, and it resonates a lot of the time in this lifetime. So so when the days went by, he started to be like an asshole, like, he to his wife, because he was being programmed, like he was an MK mind control to these people, because he would disappear to meet them and talk to them or whatever is going on. And they wanted to find out my ability, that they orchestrated a fake news thing where like, around the block where I live, oh, little girl got shot in the eye. Oh, there was the Latin kings that they were trying to recruit this guy, so they asked him to shoot somebody in the eye, and he shot a little girl in the eye. And then Lee, because Lee worked with police enforcement and all that stuff, and he's he's an asshole. He's kind of really passionate with like children and all that stuff. And he goes like, oh, when we get phone calls about like the a parent or somebody that raped a little child, that enrages me. I want to, kill them, this and that. And, that was his, his trigger, So when they were talking about that the next day, because we had bloods that living in, I didn't even know. That was just like, figured they were just, hoodlums hanging on the corner. I had no realize that they were bloods anyway. Were they bloods or the Latin kids? They were bloods. And they had like the chains that they were wearing and all that stuff. So then Lee started to the on the side, whoever his handler was and all that, they went to him, or undercover will go to him, because he's working with the police. They had him go like, hey, let's work on this case with the police, just so they can have that connection going with the police too. And he didn't realize that, because he was being played, even though they was sent, he was sent to me, I guess, to just find out who I am, find out what I can do and all that stuff. And he was sent to me. He was still, like, because he set me up where I, at the end, that they wanted to frame me and put me in jail, for like trying to rape a girl and all that stuff. And then in jail, they would just, that'll be it. I'm done for. But I mean, I'm jumping ahead of myself. That was almost the ending of that. So then we will go, and he would like, show me like telepathy. We started to learn how to do that, where I would just like talk to him, and it was that easy. When you think it's not as hard, you're just thinking with your mind, and he's thinking with his mind, and that's telecommunication. Like, I didn't realize I can do it with animals. Like, I can, if I see like a dragonfly and all that stuff, I say like, can you land on my finger? And like you just, they will sense your aura, and even the smallest insect, a butterfly can read your thoughts, because they once you meditate and you have a good heart and that good energy, and then you're aware too, to be consciously aware that you can telecommunicate with them, because what person is going to stop by and try to communicate with like a dragonfly? They're not going to bother. They're not even aware of it. But when a dragonfly is kind of going like, wow, this person actually sees me, acknowledging me and all that stuff, they would just land on my fingers. Like I like 2 or 3 pictures of me with a dragonfly in my finger, because I told the dragonfly, come on my finger, so my friends could know that I can telecommunicate with you. You know, and people could do it too. People can do it. But anyway, going back to the program, when the child, you put on those headphones on, and then beep, certain beep, certain sounds comes in and all that stuff. And I don't know how the hell, through just simple stuff like that, would they able to know that I was a telepathic. I gotta learn, because a lot of oracles told me like, oh, you have healing powers. You have healing powers. I said, oh, let me learn this before I get old, because I want to at least apply to try to help as many people as I can. You know, um, so then this kind of went on every day, where like, I had a job. He goes, quit your job. I had no job. We were running out of resources. I had a beautiful comic book collection, and it was breaking my heart. It was like, we're going to go sell these comics and all that stuff, because they knew that was the only magic, to like a kid that's growing up and reading comic books, have no other things. I was a shy person, introverted. I wasn't going outside playing baseball, so trying to go on dates with girls. I was like shy and all that. Plus, in my mind, it just ingrained. I was like, oh, I need to focus, be a lone wolf, and because I have destiny, and I know the world's messed up. So the last thing I want to do is like, just be normal, have a wife, and bring kids to this messed up world. It's like, I don't want to do that. So then I was always like focus and just trying to learn about esoteric books, trying to find out the meaning of life, trying to find out why is this the way it is. And I come a long way, and I found out a lot of crazy shit that is like, I said, all right, I pretty much is grasping the whole thing, especially the true history that's kind of messed up with us, because we used to be green, purple. We used to have dark colors. All of our races, we used to be dark colors, and we would breathe like hydrogen. We're water and all that stuff. But with this dome, what happened when we had this dome within us, and then that pleroma, that chi, and that because it's through the breath that you have your powers. That's why even like when you're lifting something, or so, you're gonna like, it's the breath. And through changing that, we would change, and then we got rusty. We rusted, and then we turned black. That's why you have like in like, back in you know before the invasion, where like in China, in Russia, in Germany, we were all black. We were all black. And then, when this invasion happened, and this cycle, because everything in life is through the ebb and flow of life, the golden age through the dark ages. And now we're kind of turning back to the golden age. And, the rulers that's been ruling for the last 6,000 years knows that their time is almost up. So this is their last trump card, what they're doing now to keep, the massive, the collective consciousness from like, not ascending to the fifth world, the fifth dimension, the higher consciousness and all that. So let's see. So every day we were learning something and all that stuff, but then he cut me off from resources. I had no money. I was going through crazy hard time to I don't know what was the purpose of it. It was almost like boot camp going on, because he was with his wife. They were trying to escape the child protective agency in New Jersey, because it was 2 potheads, and any you know child protective agency, any excuse that they have to take kids away from their parents, is really, there's a diabolical agenda behind that. A lot of times they're not really there to protect children. They're just another form of child trafficking, going on, because all these immortals, if they're going to stay young, they're going to need, their supplements, if you know what I mean. So so then, so one of the things that I found interesting with Lee too, with telecommunication, when we start to telecommunicate, it's just as simple as just a thought, that you're just in thought and thought. And then I'm thinking, am I really telecommunicating? And I'll go like, hey, I'm sorry. And then he'll go like this. And then I'll say like, okay, we are telecommunicating. Oh, wait, oh, wow, this is interesting. And every time we would go out, we have these cars following us. And I was surprised that he really did have, I guess, people working with him, because there'll be cops there, and we would open the gate to, like, because we had no money, because, maybe quit my job, because they're like, oh, we gotta stay, gotta make sure if they try to take the kids away from me, you guys to protect them, blah, blah, blah. I mean, the story goes deeper when he told me who the kids are reincarnated, and I kind of, I don't want to go too much into that, but, you know, so with Lee, so we, struggling, selling comics, getting money so we could eat food every day. So it was always a constant struggle. And at the end, it was really to deplete me out of my, resources, and to kind of like just have me isolated from people and family, and kind of drive me crazy. It's like, uh, hitting, rock bottom, where I had no money for food, and I'm trying to find. Now I know where pantries are. Now I know this. I had my father that he lived in a retiring home. It's sad to say, I would go visit him just so, lunchtime comes. It's like I would just eat the food that they would give him, and stuff like that, because yeah, being a nice guy, you can't trust nobody, because, people are how they are. You give them an inch and they take a mile. And here I am trying to, like, because I kind of believe that this guy was wholeheartedly Bruce Lee, that tried to take away his kids. He wanted to be right back in his family. And my goal was really to just help him be safe with his family, not knowing behind it that it was, half of it was bullshit. I mean, that was real, but the other bullshit part was that was like even the Child Protective Agency people, they didn't know that Lee was part of the Alphabet Boys, because every time when the cops trying to arrest Lee, he would tell them like, I'm part of the, these guys, and he would make a signal, and which only people that are in the Masons, that are in the club, that are military, would know what this means. When you do this, when you do this, they know exactly what that means. So, and it's a code, because one time we were like, this is how this whole operation ended. There was a show called Live at 5, which they airs live on in New York City. I don't know if you remember that show, Live at 5. I don't even know if it's still on, but if you look at the old episodes, you can see a lot of the old episodes. But there's one episode that they're not gonna have there, that they erased it, that they don't even have that, because he was getting tired too of being manipulated and all that stuff. So then he goes out, and then and then it's Live at 5. And he was like, "Is this live? Is this live?" And then they go like, "Yeah, it's live." Why? He goes right there in the middle, grabs the mic, and telling like, you know what? He takes out his teeth. He shows it up. He was like, "I work for the government. I have my teeth pulled out by the military. Work for the military, and we have thousands like us, and we want our lives back. We're tired of this shit. We want our lives back." When he did that, All Point Bulletin, all the cops in all New York City was looking for him. When they were looking for him and all that stuff, he knows the patterns, because the police, when they patrol, there's certain patterns that they go through, like, to do. And he knew that, so he knew to, in and out. He was really good. But I guess before that, I'll tell you more dramatically what happened actually with Lee before that. Before that ended, I forgot. This is a big chunk of the story, which is kind of crazy. So they will have the police, the vans, because this is 11 years ago, and this bullshit that happened to me, I try to put it away from my mind for years. So I kind of like, forgot the flow of the story. But when Lee found out about this, and all that, and every night there will be like a van with a cop car going like, if there's any information anyone knows about like the little girl that got, please call blah 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 blah. And they have flyers. I wish I kept one of those fucking flyers and all that. And then we would look at the news and we wait for like the evening news and all that stuff, and not even the Bronx channels, the Bronx and all that. No mention, no mention, no mention. We're like, what the hell's going on? It turned out that that was fake. It turned out that that was fake. That was merely to promote Lee and us to get into a fight with the Bloods so they could see if I was freaking like Neo from the Matrix, you know. Which I'm not, you know, at least not yet, you know. That there's something very interesting with you know, with the higher consciousness and the spirit that you know makes a true martial artist is more than just, you know, the physical and the mental. It's the spiritual. It's really the spiritual too. So then Lee starts to talk to this guy and starts to tell him, question him about you know, like, what does he know about the little girl that got shot? And then the guy's getting, you know, pissed off and all that. And then I go like, Lee, just freaking send them flying and all that stuff, because he does something like he was telling me when he was having an argument with his father-in-law, and he just pushed him, and then the guy flew like 15 feet away, but he didn't get hit. It was like this energy thing, and I felt it too, because every time he would get into a fight with his wife, that I would go in the middle to try to break it off, he'll do something like this, and I'll fucking go flying, and I was like, what the fuck? This isn't human. This is kind of interesting. This is probably like a chi or something that's like just fucking sending me off. You know, it's like in the movies, like the kung fu movies and all that stuff. We can do if we could control like the pleroma, you know, the chi and all that stuff. We can do that ourselves. You'd be surprised what we could do, you know, under pressure. And one of the things that they wanted to do, if you remember one of the X-Men movies where Magneto, as a child, that they put in there with a gun, it was like, show me what you got, or I'm gonna blow your mom's head off. You know, he didn't know and all that stuff. It's through the extremities that's how that developed, and that's what they were doing with me, is to go through the extremities of that to find out. But I'm glad that, you know, I wasn't able to show them, because if I did, then they will fucking take me to use me.
What they do. That's what they do, Firehorse, with us that were using the programs. They do it at home. You know, with even our parents. Like, we have to be like in between of the anger and the sadness in order to bend wind. That's remember in the movie he even says it, because he's crying, he's really pissed off because, you know, they killed his mom or whatever, and he's an adult now, and then Xavier tells him you have to be in the in between. So that's the secret. And believe me, it's been tough. I totally get you. I know what you went through, and yeah, but keep going. Thank you.
So then when Lee said that, I didn't realize that there were like these two other guys, because that's what the gangs do. They fucking play dirty. They have one guy distracting you, and a whole bunch of you just jumps on you like a pack of wolves and beat you up. But Lee was smart. He was also smart. So then what happened is like, as soon as that one guy that was going like, yeah, come on, and I was like looking at him, Lee's going like, yo, get behind me. Everything turns black. And then when I come around, I'm on the floor. My lip is split. You can still see like a scar here. My lip is split, and I'm pissed off. Like, Lee, you motherfucker, you got me into this bush, and I was just pissed. But I didn't realize, because his wife was looking through the window, and she saw when the bunch of guys were like kicking me and all that. And I didn't. I was protected. I didn't feel nothing. The only thing that was because of my fall is that I cracked my lip, and that's it. But other than that, I knew that I was protected because of Mother Dragon, and which that's gonna tie in with the dragon, you know. And I call her Mother Dragon, and realized years later that alien that I was talking to, that morphin thing, wasn't an alien, but it was a dragon, and that dragon is my guardian angel. And at another time, you know, when I have my gear on, I am going to show you something with my eyes that I'm not going to tell you now, but I'm going to show you something with my eyes that you're going to, you know, that see, because, you know, the Mother Dragon, the guardian angel, that is, you know, they say your ancestors live within you. Well, a lot of people that has this connection to dragons probably don't realize it, that There were dragons in a past life, and then the dragon's ancestors are still, no matter what avatar body you're born in, what world, what dimension, you'll never forget. You won't forget. That's why the soul carries, ancestors and families and all that stuff. So when I woke up, I went to the house upstairs because I had like a tripod, like a big tripod like that. So psychologically, I was just gonna say hello to my little friends so they could get off lead. But what they did, Glee had grabbed one of them. The leader, he goes like, let me take care of the alpha male, the leader. Boom, grabs him by the hair, pulls him over, his beads, gang beads, breaks. And then the guy, when Lee tells me this the whole story later on, he was like, yo, dude, my beads. He was like, serious motherfucker, we're in a fight. So he grabs him by the hair, he bangs his face against the fire hydrant. He was like, let go of my friend. Let go of my friend. To the other guys, he keeps like pounding like his head against the thing on the fire hydrant. He's like, let go of him, my friend. Let go of my friend. Again, 3 or 4, I don't know, because I blacked out. But when I turned out, like they were all, they had all run, because when I went up and they were busy distracted, I just went, was across the street from where I am. I go up the stairs, thinking of that, and then the guys, when they turn around, they don't see me. They assuming, oh shit, he's gonna get a piece. So they all dip and they went into the park and went to disappear. Now, when that happened, and I went upstairs, this was like a scene from The Professional, the ending, when in the Dakota, no, is it no, the Chelsea Hotel, because they filmed it in the Chelsea Hotel, all those cops around, and within 2 minutes, not 103, freaking the whole block was nothing but police cars, the whole block going around. Again, back, I didn't have the telephones with the cell with the live and the camera. Maybe they were, but I was so anti-technology. I was like, that I didn't have a camera phone and all that stuff to record that. But in my mind, I already knew, like, maybe 1 or 2 cop cars, but the freaking whole police force is there, like the whole and thinking in my head is like, for them, they were like going like, we cannot, like, this operation was under their watch, and they're fuck up, because they're the one that set this shit up to begin with. Is their fuck up. So they're all around. They're all around the cops and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden they came in, and then there was because there was something with the Koreans. I don't know what in the play, in the Psyop operation, something that was going on with, like, that Lee had a connection with a Korean guy. He's gonna get all these millions of dollars. Don't worry about it. I'm gonna set you up. We're gonna make a movie. You're back up in rent. Don't worry. I'm gonna get all this money. In the meantime, it was just bullshit. Just the months go by with no rent being paid. This is 6 months without being paid. Any landlord would have thrown me out a long time ago. And the thing is that I remember going in the elevator one day, seeing the landlord, seeing a guy in a perfect 3-piece suit and the American flag next to him. I already knew he was government. And I'm looking at them, and then I can see the vibe on my landlord just looking at me. It was like, what the fuck did you get yourself into? Because I know that government guy was talking to him, probably telling him like, hey, we'll take care of the rent, or blah, blah, blah. Don't worry about it. Don't do nothing. We got something going on here. So shut up and hear mine, or whatever happened, transpired. I could probably go into details in that, because I got all these questions that I have, and I have, certain oracles that, I want to expand on, like, what happened behind the scenes of this and this and this, because they were supposed to have thrown me out. And then the marshal was supposed to show up to my house to, like, just throw me out of the house, because after the Saya thing was exposed, and Lee, they immediately, they pull out, because once he said that, I started to look for him, and then I found him. I said, all right, let's go. Jump the train style. Because of that happened, everybody pulled out. Once he exposed the Psyop operation, and I said, all right, they all left, they're fucked up. And then he jumped the train style, and all of a sudden it's like the cops came out, and they're like, this guy, this white, big, heavy guy, and then this like short girl. And then I started to do this, and then the girl looked at the guy, and she was like, Sergeant, they keep saluting us. They keep saluting us, you know, because the guy was Lee was getting ready to run. You know, I go like, Lee, calm down. You know, let's explain it to them. You know, what's going on? And then Lee told him like, hey, we're working on this case. I work for the police. You know, from this, he goes, I'm military. And the guy goes, oh, you mean you're military? Oh, you mean you're military? He goes like, I did. I had my teeth pulled out and he shows him. He takes out his teeth. He pulled out. I was like, what police? No, okay. So it's just. And then I look at the girl, and then the girl's going on like this, and I'm going like, special ops. You know, this is fucking special ops. I had no clue what's going on, but this is special ops. And she was like, okay. Then they let us go. You know, but then once they let us go, he got arrested again. Anyway, the kids that was staying in the house, when I went back, when I was in the house, the wife had to go deal with some stuff in New Jersey with court and all that stuff. And she messed up because she gave them the location of where they were staying, and then they tracked the kids down. And I was with the kids, you know, a girl and a boy, and then they knocked on the door, and then my spirit, just like something in my hands, like just went like this, like guided me towards the door, like end this freaking nightmare already, you know, like because he was a hard person to the fascinating person, but at the same time, a fucking crazy asshole, you know. So anyway, so like the hands just left me like, okay, this is over. Handed in the kids and all that stuff. They arrested me too, you know, because they some bullshit saying that I had weed on the table, I had weed in the kitchen, I had weed in the living room. Anybody that's a freaking pothead is not gonna do that. They're gonna have this stash somewhere, then I'm gonna have that. So that was their excuse so they could arrest me. You know, I'm seeing her rewriting the drafts. She put me in this little jail here, and I'm looking at her, the arresting lady that arrested me with pink handcuffs. And I'm like, what the fuck? Says, when does cops have pink handcuffs? But anyway, these are two women cops, you know. So I guess, you know, girlies. So I want to be girly, so they carrying guns. So so yeah, so then
I had two pairs of pink handcuffs. I had two pairs of black, and then four pairs of the chrome. But anyway, that's
okay.
story.
I guess on the interest that goes like, my God, they're like, I guess to, you know, money to be made, even law enforcement, like, okay, what's next? Like rainbow bullets. But so you know, so when Lee exposed this, and then we're looking for him and all that stuff, at the end, you know, they arrested me, then the kids were taken away, and then he was pissed off. He was like, why did you do this? And I didn't even tell him like, hey, it was the spirits. I didn't want to tell him nothing more about myself and all that stuff. So they, you know, they went off. You know, now they were just, you know, I said, you can't run away from fucking, you gotta face this shit anyway. You know, you can't run from them forever thinking like, oh, your Korean friend, you're gonna escape the US, you're gonna tell the world that you're Bruce Lee and this and that. And at the end, I found out he wasn't the reincarnated Bruce Lee. You know why? Because Bruce Lee is still alive. Bruce Lee faked his death like all celebrities do. They fake their death. Why do they fake their deaths? Because if they don't fake their deaths, and then you see like 100 years go by, and you're like, why is this person still young? They're going to realize that all the falling angels, all the stars are like Hollywood vampires. You know, they just don't age. That's why they have to fake their death and assume other roles. So like that, you know, nobody could put two and two together. You know, so the same with like Gene Ho. Gene Ho is Bruce Lee, who became Gene Ho, and he also became, I think, Mechu Kaku, this physician. You know, that talks about like oh, the new world, the fifth level. You know, anyway. So then I realized like, yeah, I guess this is a psyop operation, you know, that went on. And how did they know about me? Not until I found out this. Like, they do that. They keep track of you. If you in the gate program, they will keep track of you through time. They look at it, they check everything out. They know everything. You know, through your emails and all that stuff, to see if you woke up to your powers and if you're using it. Because if you are, they you can't interrupt the matrix. So that's why that's why a lot of children that disappear too, is because of certain abilities that they have, that they either take them and you know, adopt them into their family, or just try to like study them and see what they could do to make, experimenting and whatever else is going on. So Yep. So that was the end of that PSYOP operation. And then yeah, I was just glad that it was over. But then just looking back in general, one of the things I discovered too is through the gangs that the Bloods and the Crips, those gangs are being controlled by the military and the Masons. That's why when the gangs are flashing certain signs, it's not West Coast, it's Masons. The gangs doesn't even know that they're controlled by them, because when that fight happened, and my lip was split open, all that stuff, the next day, and the cops came in the next day, and you had these higher ranking Bloods and Crip that came to talk to them, to the gang that jumped us, and go like, yo, don't touch these guys. That was saying. So then in my mind, I was going like, who the fuck are these guys that look bigger? They didn't even look like gang leaders, big, brawly, like brothers, like just coming down, like, don't touch this guy, don't touch these guys. And then the undercover cops, that was around the neighborhood talking to us, was like, is everything cool with you guys? Is everything cool? And I said like, yeah, I got nothing, whatever. So
What was
yeah,
South?
that's one interesting thing I found out, that the gangs are controlled by the military and the Masons slash Illuminati.
So the Mason is, West Side, right? But what about the South Side? What would the South Side? What would the what would? Well, I mean, I know they're being controlled by all the gangs are being controlled. What I'm saying is, but do you specifically know?
Yeah, this is when I found out, like just put two and two together, after seeing that, with the gang involvement, and then after that, the cops came in, and then after that, the next day, undercover cop talking to us, and then the high ranking, like I guess the top dogs of the Bloods or the Crips, or the Bloods just came and just started to talk to the guys, going like, don't touch these guys. And then I remember one time I went to the bodega, and then the gang leader guy just came in, and I looked at him, didn't say a word, didn't even look at me, and I was going like, okay, you know.
Oh yeah,
So
everybody has a handler. If they want to start, if the police or military want the gangs to start something, a destruction, they just do their code words, or maybe text something that's you know
yeah, usually
certain
when they're
information.
looking for an organ or something, it was like, all right, this millionaire has a heart failure, he needs a new heart. Okay, gang fight. There's a certain bullet holes, make sure that they don't damage the organs, the black market.
Right. Oh
Sad to say.
yeah, I know. And the sad part is that that person has to be alive when they take the organ out.
Wow. Yeah.
And same thing. There's just a lot of things that happen within the government, police, and the poor people. I didn't know until after my I knew certain things when I was a police officer, but it wasn't until everything else was revealed, until I had my awakening. And even now, like seeing things that have occurred or whatever my life. But you're right. Like I was taken out of class as a child for ESL since I was 3 years old. I was in Head Start all the way up, ESL, English as a second language, all the way up to when I was a sophomore. And then I said, I'm not dumb. Like, why are you saying that I have a seventh grade reading level if I'm a freshman? I didn't believe them. So I worked really, really extra hard, and they saw I was an A student, A plus, and they saw how hard I work. And finally, I applied to the AP English courses and the AP science courses and all that, in history. And so then I went to the higher ups, and I said, I want to be in this class. And so they had me in the classes. And then academic decathlon, they sent me to a thing called Close Up in Washington, D.C. I did the medical thing at the U of A. I did a med start. It's just crazy how they see how, like, is this person going to be um, docile and continue with these programs, or is he or she going to excel and say, F this, like, I'm smarter than this? You know what I'm saying? The ear ringing test, I had those. I had the bubble test. They would take me out of class to put me in this thing to do the hearing test. They had me do coding for computers in second grade for the Apple, when the Apple first came out, the computer, they do all kinds of stuff to us. So they do trace us. But what I'm trying to say is, holy moly macaroni, man. It's you start thinking and then putting all these things together, piece by piece by piece. You know, they invited me to go speak in Florida for the disclosure. Now I don't know if they're going to do it again. They invited me to go to Vegas. That was the first time there in 2021. I met Brett Olson. He invited me to his table. Then I met Tracy Jaco and Michael Jaco. So what I'm saying is, everything I feel that even everything, I'll just say this, the suits are not only in schools, in the medical, they're even in our communities, okay? Because there are suits, I'm not gonna say who, but this suit holds meetings every so often in different cities to see what people know. This person will give out like a psyop. He'll say maybe one thing that's true, but then everything else is like a branch here, branch there, to confuse people. In other words, people that have worked for certain government entities, when they retire, are given an order or money to write books and more books and more books and more books, that they're still working for the CIA or whatever kind of entity they were working for. They're still getting paid by the government. So these guys are still infiltrating. You know what I'm saying? Somebody told me, you got to go see this guy, blah, blah, blah. And I have, and now I realize that he is being used as a psyop person. You know what I'm saying? Even though he's retired from a certain agency, or she, it's.
Yeah, they never retire. Anybody that's military never retires.
And me, they have me as a ghost because they don't want to give me my benefits for the VA. The VA has denied me twice. I have so many records. I have boxes and boxes that I've given them to them about my medical records, about I'm going to have my 36th surgery now. And they still don't want to honor that. So I think you were using Secret Space Program also. I mean, I don't like the word super soldier, but you know, because of our abilities, they put us in these black ops or whatever kind of things, because they know we can airbend. They know we can, like, I can hold on to the wormholes while they bring in relics, or I can go get relics and bring it in. You know, it's weird that you say that you were talking about the stars, the fallen angels, because I don't feel like all of them are bad, simply because I came in as a shooting star. When I told you that I had my that light that came out of my chest, and at the same time the shooting star came and then hit the floor, and there was fire and everything, and then my neighbors and the people who I was living with, we went outside and they're like, did you hear that? Yeah, well, that was me coming in to save myself, you know, and to remind myself of the mission to help the world, what we're doing right now, just talking and helping people wake up and see that there's more to this life than what we were taught. And I was homeless too, Miguel, like you. And I think what they do is they want to see how we're going to react when we have no money, no family. Project Artichoke is an old trick that they do to get us to live alone with no resources. You have to rely on food stamps. You know what I'm saying? So they break us to the point. They think that they can break us. How do you say? Obviously, we know about the personalities that we have, the DID. They do that so that way they can use us for the different faction, the Draco, the Reptilian, the FBI, the CIA, whoever wants to use us. Oh, you know, Veronica has this personality. Firehorse has that personality for their ops. But now that we're wiser, right?
Yeah, this is one guy. I gotta get into details once I have this question among many that I need to visit my oracles.
Okay.
But
I'm gonna make
this,
I'm gonna make some coffee while you talk.
okay,
I'm listening. I'm here listening
okay,
though.
okay,
Okay.
okay. So let's see, what was I saying? What the hell was I saying? Okay. Oh yeah. So I was in a train station, and this is kind of weird. There was like this girl that I knew. She was a Mason. Well, she studied Mason. She would bring takes books in the library about masonry and all that stuff. And then Masons would notice, that she has a tattoo of an ankh on her back. So other Masons would look at her and see the ankh on her back and try to start probably a conversation. Obviously, they're trying to get into her pants. But anyway, so she lived upstate, and when she got off the express bus, I forgot the name of those buses that goes all across America. But anyway, this one got off just 2 blocks away from 23rd Street. On 23rd Street, on the is it east side or west side? On the west side is a Mason building. It's a Masonic building, and she would go in front of that building in the Masons, and then the camera there, and then she would just make faces and all that stuff, and I would just hate it. I tell her, don't go there. I hate them. I hate the Masons for obviously reasons, because of what happened with the Psyop operation, that they were trying to break me to the point that I almost jumped out of a window to commit suicide. That's how fucking crazy it got, from no food and constantly
Yeah.
torture, mental torture, and that going on for 6 months. Well, not 6 months. The first 2 months was okay and intriguing and interesting, where there'll be a highway, there's a traffic going on, and then he would tell me just go between the pulses and all that stuff. And then I don't know, for some reason I just freaking, well, it did work. I had my fucking life on his hands when the cars are zooming in and out, and then he doesn't care. He was like, ready, 1, 2, 3, and then boom, and we'll go. And then somehow it was kind of like the Matrix, where we just bypassed the cars. I was going like, what if this motherfucker just got hit by a car? Because, obviously, if you're in the highway, you're looking, you have to time it where the cars are coming in. Like, okay, it's gonna give me this much time. It's kind of like crossing the border in Mexico, something like that. So, but it worked. It was like going if you get nervous, that nerve energy, you're creating it. But if you have that calm energy, no matter what situation it is, that calm energy while going into the highway between cars, it actually, I actually experienced it and going like, okay, this guy does know. Even though he's at the end, he was freaking TIA, he still, I experienced some interesting stuff learning from him. I should have asked more questions, but I was just more like, let me just keep quiet and absorb everything that's going on around me. Like, who am I? Who was I in a past life? Why are they interested in me? Because I don't talk about any of this stuff. How do they know? And then the gate program kind of oh, okay, now I know. Yes, the gate program. I didn't know that was called the gate program, but I remember being tested as a child, with that, so it's kind of interesting. Um, but I forgot what I was talking about. I kept rambling on. Um, But oh yeah. So then the girl, she kept, going in front of the Mason building, and I was like, stop doing that. She knows I hate the fucking Masons. So we go into the train, we're sitting in the train, and then across from us on the left side of the train, sitting down, there's a man. He's dressed immaculate. He has I think blonde hair. And he's like, obviously, I'm not a Mason, but I obviously know when they're fucking giving out Mason signs and communicating with each other. So then the guy is throwing Masonic signals, and then I'm looking at him, because I guess I've been hyper aware ever since that was going on. And a lot of interesting stuff happens when you become aware of the people around you, to find out you really run into some people that are not fucking human if you pay close attention. So So then I told her, like, look, he's giving you Masonic signals. Aren't you gonna answer it? And then she either noticed it or whatever. Then she started doing these Mason signs, and I'm, like back with him, and then he's doing it with her. And then as an empath, no matter what race you are, poor, rich, asshole, nice person, as an empath, you can feel like the energy from the person. But with this guy, he looked just so immaculate that I go like, I think this is the guy's first time riding in a train, because he does not look like that he rides a train. He looks like he's being ridden around in limousines or has his own oh secret technology, because and then feeling his energy, I didn't feel anything, no soul or whatever it was. It felt like out of all the people, because I'm freaking past 40, so obviously I have experience with people, whether they're good vibes, bad vibes, like this is the first time seeing somebody and feeling that. And I said, I don't feel no energy. It was like he wasn't even human, you know. And it wasn't until like years later, because this girl was interesting too. She had like what you call an alien implant, like on her shoulder. So certain technology or whatever erupts and all that stuff. And then she told me there's one vision where she was in a cave, and there was a mountain of skulls, and there was a skeleton of a man, but the apron of a Masonic apron. And then she just grabbed a sword. And then she does have a freaking sword, and she doesn't know who her father is. So it's kind of interesting, like with some of these, like, you know, I guess agents or spies, that, kids that they might abduct to like raise them up to be assassins and stuff like that. It's just, it's interesting. But for me, it was like this, what the fuck? It's like, I'm gonna get more. That's one of my questions to the Oracle. So I'm when next time I'll get you into more details. But just those are just the outer worldly experiences that I had. And then when we're getting ready to leave the station, I just look at him, and I look him straight in the eye. Like I know you're there. So then I look at him, and he looks at me, and then he just kind of gets a little spooked, like, because I just look straight at him in the eye to let him know that, hello, I fucking see you from a mile away. And I was just saying, when the PSYOP operation happens, that they had these cameras, that they'd be like across the street, because people are not aware. That's why you could look at people across the street and take pictures. They have no clue that you're looking at them. But back then, with the PSYOP operation, I would look straight in the lens, and I would just, give them the signal, like I see you, take pictures and all that stuff. And it's just like Mission Impossible, when they were like, and this is the mob chief from, they have all these files and all that, the same shit that they have with all the Starseeds, the Starseed, you know, children that are just, that they're aware of your powers, and they just, keep track of you if you use your powers and you disappear, you know. Um, so yeah, so then we got out of the train, and then we went out, and then that was that one experience. But that the event there, I had met interesting oracle uh in the Philippines. And when I told her that story, she goes like, that was a falling angel. That was a falling angel. And I'm going like, shh. I said, okay, that makes sense. Only makes sense because the person was like, it's like everything was clean, like sanitized, like bleached, like even the soul and the spirit. That was like, it just looks so immaculate, but yet you don't feel like there's no soul to that person. That's the only way I could describe it. I said, that's kind of interesting. And I guess that maybe that's why movie stars are movie stars. So when you meet them and you have this surreal thing, you think it's because they're movie stars, but maybe it's because that's the vibe that you get from these falling angels, you know, because
Hi,
we were,
I'm gonna have you talk because I have to go walk my Lola. Okay, so
okay.
you can talk about anything I know you want to talk about dragons too, and then the different actors who are, whatever you want to talk about. But if you can just continue, that way I don't have to close the program because I want to listen to you, but I have to walk her. Okay.
Okay, go for it.
And entertain the public. Thank you.
Okay. Wow. This is okay. This is it. All right. Another experience, I'm gonna say, Liz, because I have this habit of like, just like, on a spring day in New York City, take my shaman tokes and just go around and just absorb the people watching, just watching people and all that stuff. Because yeah, and when you do that, you see that like 90% of the people just, but you have that 1% that was just like, aware, and I kind of like to do that where I would just walk, to the street, the music on, just looking and vibing and then smiling at the person until you find that one person that just looks at you. You look at them, you smile, and they smile back. And it's like, okay, that's one conscious person. And it always happens every time I go, when I do that, there's always one person that's always conscious and we just look at you, because they're doing the same thing that I'm doing, just like people watching, just going observing. So then when I was doing this is in 14th Street on the west side going towards Union Square on the east side of New York. Springtime. So as I'm going and I'm walking around in the distance, I see like this girl, she's like strumming, the streets like if she freaking owns it. She's just like walking with that arrogant, proud look, and she's going like this. And then I'm looking at the people there and look at her, and then I go, just look at her. And then she looks at me, and then she was like, kind of like this, like, just gives me this look like this. So then I playing around with her, I kind of do the same thing, and then she just goes, when she does like with her eyes, I feel like these freaking like electrical shocks that just like goes into, and I'm going like, what the I feel it. My eyes, hurt, freaking hurt. And then what I'm going through my mind is like, what the hell? Is she like a shape-shifting reptilian? Is she a witch? Those were my two answers. I was going back and forth in my mind, going like, how did she do that? How the fuck did she do that? I just want to like tell her that I didn't mean to offend her. I'm just like, being friendly, but I was surprised that that she was able to do that. And then that was one of the experiences that I told the oracle about. And then she expanded on it by saying like, well, there was three of them. There was two other girls behind that one, and she was like a witch, like a powerful warlock, like you must not like an ordinary witch that you go to Wiccan store, like, oh, let me do sage and this and that. It's like, no, these are like ancient witches, that has places where they magically, they don't want to be seen, or where they live you can't, it's like Doctor Strange. Remember Doctor Strange, that he lives in the village in the comic books, and they're going around trying to find his loft, and his loft, they can't find it because he doesn't want it to be found. It's like kind of interesting how that works until, if he wants them to see it, they're able to find the place. So and yeah, that happens with a lot of beings. If you remember the dark crystal, there's like these, like with canes and all that stuff. I think that you call that a crone. Is that they call crones? And one guy that I know, he talked about meeting a crone, and then she shapeshifts. Definitely there's shape-shifting. That's 100% real. You know why it's 100% real? Because I can do it, and that's one of the things I want to show. But next time I'll show you, because they know I can do that too. And I didn't know I can do that until like my wife that I met, like she's also very esoteric, shout out to my beautiful wife. And she, we met for the first time, and she takes me up to the mountains, Witch Mountain. And she doesn't tell me it's called Witch Mountain. She just wanted, because she's esoteric and she's interested in the occult, and she does stuff like this, So anyways, we're going up there. There's a, packs of dogs, and they're all like howling and barking. And then we look over, and they're like two goats there. And those two goats, because I seen goats, they tie the goats up, and you see, or cattle and all that stuff. They tie them. But these two goats, since it was dark, the I couldn't see that they were unchained, but they were just barking at them. And I'm thinking, that's kind of weird. Don't dogs always see sheeps, and goats? Why are they barking and hollering and going, that I have that footage. So I'm definitely going to send that footage to Veronica, and I'll talk more about like my adventures in the Philippines on the occult side, because you are what you vibrate. So, me, I guess because I'm aware of the magic and I was born into it, really, that I vibrate with it. So obviously you are what you vibrate. So you're vibrating with these interesting mysteries, these magical mysteries. You're like resonating with it. So anyway, so I didn't see it. I was busy looking at the dark sky with all those stars, and she saw like the eyes red glowing on the two goats. So she already knew that they were shapeshifters, and she was like going like, give me the flashlight. I think it was a flashlight or the flashlight on my camera, and she kept shining it into their faces, shining into their faces. And then turned around and they started to walk towards us. As they started to walk towards us, she grabbed me by my hand, going like, they're coming this way, they're coming this way. And I'm looking at it and I'm kind of calm, but for some reason they turned around and they left. And she has like the Filipinos know this. If you're Filipino, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm sure certain religious people know, like a little bottle where they have like stems and flowers and oils in it. That's like a protection talisman that they use a lot in the Philippines for like the mananangas. Manananga is like the Filipino version of a vampire, where by day she's a woman, but by night the other half of her body gets detached and she grows wings, and then she goes on to her favorite food is fetuses of mothers that are pregnant. So those are the kind of talisman that they had. It's either that talisman that drove it away, or it must have been me, but me not realizing it because my guardian angel, the dragon, probably manifested through me, because that tends to happen sometimes, to scare off the enemy. That's kind of one of the things that I don't talk about. It's kind of crazy, but I notice it, because I didn't know it until like, when there's certain altercation that I would kind of get with somebody, and all I have to do is look them in the eye, and then my whole face morphs into something that they'll get terrified, and they would just like go like, oh, I'm sorry, and then they would leave, and I would not know what the hell, why, until one night when I'm with my wife up there after that crazy thing happened, when she was so terrified of like the skinwalkers going off, and then we go into the tent and we're there, and then I look into her eyes and she's looking into my eyes, and then she's like going like scared because my eyes shape shifted into dragon eyes. So she was like going like, oh man, I'm up in the mountains, Witch Mountain by myself, and it turned out that this guy that I'm going out with is probably a reptilian or something. But I promise you, I'm not.
I get you, Firehorse, because I had no idea. I just all my life I knew that I loved dragons, and I put some tattoos here. I got two dragons here. I got a dragon eye here.
Wow.
The dragon eye is right here, and it's holding the baby. And all this time, I didn't know that I had dragon blood inside me, which is pretty much our ancestors or whatever. And my eyes turn green, like if I'm really, really mad. And I'm pretty sure you can make things blow up too, on not meaning to, subconsciously. Sorry about the noise here. I live close to the hospital, but it's
No, I don't hear nothing.
I think that they're afraid of us, Firehorse. I think they're afraid of us, and they want to know what powers we have, and they want to know how conscious we are of them, and what if we know how to control them or not. Because sometimes I can't control when I'm angry and shit happens, and then I black out, and I'm like especially if if they're putting my kids or myself in danger, or I feel passionate about something, some injustice or whatever that's been done, and it's like, no. Even when, when I was an officer, they say you better watch out with her. She's the She-Hulk. And because I tell the story all the time. When I was doing the first Red Man drill at the academy, my eyes turned green because the guy knocked me out right here. And then he was a cop. I wasn't. I was just a cadet at the beginning. He was all padded up. He's like 6'4" or something. And I'm trying to, get his hand to arrest him. And then boom, he hits me here. I saw stars, which is very interesting, yellow stars. And I blacked out. And then I heard my name be called. I came back, I got up, and then they said my eyes were just green, and I was just like really mad. And I got the guy, obviously I always get the guy. Like, I would say, why are you running? Why are you running from me? I'm gonna get you somehow, some way. I'm gonna get you. But that's why, the cover of being a cop and being in the military, that they test you. That guy they sent to you, obviously, I know that you did talk about it in the first video that we did, but I don't know if you went into that kind of detail. But you did talk about the lady too, the witch. Is there anything that and then your wife and you spoke about the different things, and the spirits, and in the cemetery, the things, there.
Well, the latest, like
Yeah,
this
what's
is
the latest?
this is well, the latest. Well, not really the latest. This is like 3 years ago with those mofos, fucking bastards. Was like they had two agents that they had invisible cloak, invisibility cloak. Like I remember, I
Yeah,
went to the this was
they have $6,000 suits that you can wear and you're invisible. And I know exactly what you mean, because when I went running down the Santa Cruz Loop and it was getting late, something told me take a picture, and that you can't see anything in the trees. But I took the picture, and there was 3 freaking soldiers wearing the cloaking technology, staring at me. Yeah, go ahead. So I do believe you.
So okay, and I knew that there was something wrong the way I felt anyway. But I was in this is 3 years ago. I went to the supermarket, got a few stuff and all that, and then I packed it up. And as I was going outside, for some reason the bag snapped, fell on the floor, and then I fell on the floor too. And then my hands, like I fell, but when I hit, the hand, like I don't know how the hell I hit it, but when I hit it, I stopped from like falling all the way down. Well, I did fall down, but then I used my hands to kind of like soften the crash, or land like that. And then I got back up, and then after that I went, and then my hands started to hurt. And then all of a sudden, it's like for some reason from that fall, I kept going like, how the hell did I fell on the floor? I never fall. Like that's like, even how did I fall? It's like, you're athletic, you train martial arts, even if you haven't trained for like years in martial arts, you still got the reflex, you still like, how did I do that? It's like, it doesn't make any sense. How the fuck did I do that? And then my hands were like, I couldn't even bend them. It was like something wrong with my hands. Like shit wasn't flowing because again, I guess what this is, the powers come from. It's like the healing and then the chi, and then just doing so many things that you can do, with the palms of your hands. So then I my fingers are all messed up, and I couldn't, put them straight. And I knew that I had to do is like, man, this is gonna affect the air bending because I don't do it much here. But my plan is like, when I'm in the Philippines, I'm gonna go full throttle on all that because I don't want these motherfuckers up my ass all the time. So I'd rather just go do my thing somewhere else, away from these assholes. They have. And we're speaking of which too, when when I was the last time I was in the Philippines, and they know I love Superman too. For some reason, I don't know. It's like when the Superman movie premiered, the new one that just opened, when it premiered, it didn't premiere in Hollywood. it didn't premiere in New York. It didn't premiere in Tokyo. It premiered in the Philippines when I was there.
Wow.
When I was in the Philippines, and I'm going like, okay. Um, but when I went 3 years ago, when I went there, because I went, for shamanistic journey, ayahuasca and all that. And when I went there, my hands were already messed up, and then uh, Harleen, my shaman, before she became my baby, um, she introduced me to this guy because she belonged to like a healing group. They're like righteous healers and all that stuff. When they're like, because in the Philippines, my God, there's the healers, and then there's the cursers that be cursing people that get higher cursed, because of jealousy or some stupidest thing. It's like, this Christianity there is still having, covered the or kind of lower the light on witchcraft, because they're always going on. The healers healing those that are curses, and then you're back and forth. Like, I guess both make money on both sides. But anyway, so she was a part of a group of healers that would heal certain people that are being targeted by certain, assholes that are powerful, evil assholes. And then those are like the, just the righteous group that would just take care of that asshole that is doing that. They keep quiet about it, but because I am intuitive, I kind of know what's going on. So I say, fuck it, I'll do it too. Just like, protect the weak by any means necessary. All these evil motherfuckers. So anyway, so one of the guys, the leader from he's really interesting and powerful and wise. When he was telling Harleen how to make a talisman for myself, he was also kind of scanning me, because he's gonna be my husband, and he's gonna make sure, like, all right, let me see what this guy's about. He was like, all right, tell him that he's being followed, by the government. And I said, like, well, tell him to tell me something I don't know. He was like, tell him that you had the two guys that were cloaked invisibility were the ones that attacked him in front of the supermarket. And then when he said that, I said, like, okay, that doesn't surprise me. I figured, that they kind of chilled after that bullshit that happened in 2011, but then they kind of try to get me with an agent. We were sending a pretty agent to try to get me, and then I kind of figured that too. So plus I'm very intuitive. I just know stuff. I'm so intuitive. So then for them, it's like they really have to takes for them millions of fucking dollar in technology to try to, like, trick my ass. But it's like, at the end, it's like, as long as I have Mother Goddess, the Mother Dragon, helping me, because she was a prime. I'll get into like Mary Magdalene and the dragon, story, like some other time, to get really deep into it. But that's one of the reasons why. Why would they hide the fact that dragons don't exist, and why would they tell you dinosaurs exist? Why? Because
Right.
the dragon has something to do with us. It has something to do with us. We rode dragons back before. It was like Avatar. It was exactly like Avatar. Blue, we were blue. We were green, and we were before we got like
Yeah.
invaded, and a dome put all over us, and the uh, uh, atmospheric, thing that we're breathing more atmosphere than we are, because if we were to be breathing that air that's outside of the dome, we're back in our full power, our DNA unlock,
Exactly.
and that's it. We're like what
Yeah.
the comic books tell you,
Mhm. That's why they want the golden dome now, even though I had already seen that there's a dome above us and a dome below us. And now Trump wants the gold thing, and I'm like, oh crap. Like, oh shoot. The thing of it is they can't imprison us, starseeds, because we know how to escape. They can throw whatever at us. We're time travelers. They can keep us here for now, but there are certain times of the year, especially on the August 12th dog year, that we can escape. We can escape on a full moon, but what do? They do the DEW. They throw
Freeze. Freeze.
they don't want you to. Oh, there's a lag in my video. They don't want me to talk about this. Your internet isn't stable. They try and keep us down, but they can't. We're too powerful. They can. That's why Firehorse, I always talk about how they throw, programs like sex, porn, drugs, the alcohol abuse, any kind of program that can get you into to kind of dumb you down to keep you here, but we have to keep fighting. And when you said, hey, where few dare tread 100, you're frozen, I know. They froze you when you said DW. I know, girl. I tell you, man. But anyway, I was gonna say, I always say that Mary Magdalene, because I have been seeing in my visions and just asking her questions. Like, I know she is Nephilim bloodline. I know that she is protected in the church. I know that, us that have the M for the Merovingian bloodline, when the King Monrovia was around, the M's to me, they mean that we are Jesus and Mary Magdalene bloodline. We are the children. We are the dragons. We are the jinns. Because why is it that we can perform certain miracles? They call it miracles here, but to us, it's everyday air bending, what you're talking about. You know what I'm saying? Protection, shields up. You feel that? Shields up. Shields up. And you're protected too, Miguel, and everybody that is right here. Shields up for everybody. There comes Lola. Shields up. Do you know what I'm saying? How powerful we are? They
Uh-oh. She's frozen in time, ladies and gentlemen. Are you frozen in time? Uh-oh. Oh, this baby. Oh, all right. Okay. Shit.
They had kicked me out. Are you there, Firehorse? Hmm. Hey, Miguel, they kicked me out, but I'm back. Are you there? Hello? Are you there on Zoom? It says preparing for live stream. Goodness. Okay, we're gonna try this again. Firehorse, I don't see you. Okay, so they kicked me out of mine, but you're still there? Can you talk? Try talking, Firehorse. Can you say something? Preparing live stream. Come on, people. Bueller. We're gonna try this. We're gonna keep trying. Firehorse. So anyway, Firehorse has been on my show many times. We were talking earlier about how it was weird because we were both on, let's see, we were on the show of Tanio, Tanio, Galactic Talk. We had also been on with Peter the Insider and Jessica Morocco. I had been on with Kelly and the Raw, or Kelly Coffee. Well, all of a sudden, okay, when I come back from speaking in Vegas in 2021, okay, so I think it was in 2022 where they took down all of them. Okay, so Tanio from Galactic Talk took down all of my videos. He took down all of Firehorse's videos because Tanya was talking crap about me, and then Firehorse is like, "What? She's legit. Like, what do you mean?" So he was like defending me, and then so he decided to take all my videos down, and then later on, what's her name, Kelly and the Rod, took down mine. It was just weird. Are we back? Yes, are we back? Come on, baby. Let's do the twist. Are you there? I let you in.
Okay.
Dude. It is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, but by the way, like the people that refuse to get the, the you know what, prick, they the same stuff that's in there, they put it in the chemtrails, so they could make sure you're gonna get it one way or another. So then they just spray the whole freaking skies with it.
Yeah, and then I heard they put it in the food too, in the water. It's like they want to know who's gonna survive, pretty much. They're testing all of us humans that are in human form to see who's gonna survive, you know? So
Yeah, I think also it's just to inhibit, the light codes that are coming in that help us, evolve into, our godhood, you know. Okay, because in the Bible, they mention with the angels were jealous. It's like, why should we bow with the humans? They're just humans, And they didn't realize that, yeah, we got the God gene in us, and that's what makes them jealous, Even though they're immortal, but they can't leave this realm, they can't die. That's why they have fallen, that's how I mean, they live the luxury, just throughout time. Like all those US presidents are actors that are in this lifetime, that all of them are actors. It's been the Truman Show since the invention of the before television, since the invasion.
where let me read this comment. Where few dare tread 100. Let me see my glasses here. Does everyone around me seems listless and careless? I try to wake people up and they're just zombies. Chemtrails in the brain. True. Did you want to talk about anything else or should we do another show, Firehorse?
Yes, it's been 2 hours. We don't want the people, let the people, go
Let
do
the
what they
people.
got to do, and then we'll definitely do the next one will be on the falling angels, and I guess I would like to, kind of show the next time, show the people my eyes to see, it morphs in front of you guys. So, to see Mother Dragon.
Yeah. Do you want to do it now or?
No, not now. because I want to like put my the black
Oh
and
yeah.
it's really like not you don't get mad and all. You try to look at the aura of a person, relax and you try to look at the aura of the person. And I guess that's when it happens. That's when it
Yeah.
happens.
What I tell people is to concentrate here in the middle and then look at, like, especially in person, and you can see the dragon coming out. Like here, you can see something here coming out. But you have to focus in the middle of the person, especially when you're in like person. So, pues te quiero mucho, Firehorse. I love you a lot. And when are you gonna see your mama, your wife? When is she gonna come back so we can do a video next time? A ver cuándo.
Hopefully before the end of the before December, before
Yeah.
December. Well, I could tell
When
her
did you see her
to
last?
huh?
¿Cuándo la viste? When did you see her the last time?
The last time I saw her when I was in the Philippines, that Superman premiered in the Philippines, and I'm going like, this is kind of crazy. It's like it is and it isn't because um that for some reason it's so weird. Like certain people that are like I had this one wish doctor from the Philippines that he would talk to my wife. They know each other, and he also like helps like people that are possessed and all that stuff. He helps heal them and all that stuff. So then he told her that this guy is like, why is the Illuminati hanging around this guy? Is he friends with them? And then she goes like, no, he hates Illuminati and all that stuff. And then for me, it's like, why the Illuminati slash falling angels is that they seem to have an interest in me. And I guess maybe it's because of the dragon. It has to be because of that. It's not because, hey, Firehorse, you're so interesting or important. No, it's not me. It's who I was before. It really is who
Yeah.
I was before. That they follow and they like, because I know my abilities and I know my, like genius that in the 70s, I thought of all these movies ideas, and now they're starting to do them now. I was always ahead of my time, and it was because I just streamed conscious. A genius is somebody that just streams the ideas. It just comes naturally. So for me, it's like even when you listen to spirit or your inner voice and all that stuff, or the your higher guides. It's like you always have to stop what's going on in this world and sometimes just have time for yourself to just meditate and reflect, and answers will come to you. You just gotta put the damn cell phone down and just like
Yep.
be with yourself for like a moment and your higher self.
Yeah.
Do that for yourself.
True. And I think if you guys start writing, because after I was done, I finally wrote my 3 books, right? And I know I gotta write some more, but I started taking this class if anyone's interested, or you también, Miguel.
Well, definitely going to be getting those books. I just saw that the other day. I said, all right, I want to get me one of those books soon. So I'll get them.
Thank you.
I'm gonna get them soon.
But you got to write your books too, Firehorse. You have a lot. But what I was saying is, I'm gonna. There's a link on Facebook for Stone Hobbit. She is actually hosting. This is going to be the 10th time on Wednesday. So we do. She offers free writing class, which is we get to write. She'll give us like a subject to write once, 1 week yes and 1 week no, and then it's. I have been reading on Sheila. That Sheila and the 99 was the first book that I wrote, and I was reading a part of that, how from the perspective of Sheila, my She-Hulk, and how mad she was that people are not getting it. They're just still being dumbed down, and just how upset she is because she wants humanity to wake up to see what's going on. And if we all come together, we have more power than anything to bring down these elites that are actually from Antarctica. I always say follow the roads to Antarctica. But every Wednesday, if anybody is interested, and it's free and it's on Facebook, there's a Zoom link there. And I was thinking maybe you, Firehorse. The reason why I say is because I've been doing a lot of healing. Like just last night, I wrote 15 pages on an assignment that they gave us. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I can write another book on this or whatever. So it's healing, okay? It brings out, because what ends up happening is with me, I don't know about you guys, but I end up eating and eating because I'm anxious about everything that is going on, right? And then I have to go exercise. And then it's like this tango, right? And I'm like, you know what? If I just write down what I feel, or write a story, and whoa, you can go this way, that way. There's many freeways you can go when you write, and your energy totally changes. Like I'm more at peace now because I've been writing and going to that class. Um, Writing is an art. It's a privilege, and we can all do it. Just write down how you feel, what you're going through,
Well,
why you're mad.
writing is alchemy too, is magic too.
Yeah.
It's like you'd be surprised when you're writing halfway, not even 25% of writing. After that, it's like automatic. The story just takes over and the characters takes over. Even Quentin Tarantino said it too. That once he's writing, it's like after that is it's just the pen flows, to somewhere. Like just this quick one last story is like I wrote you can write you like if you whatever you want to wish to happen, whether it's like you want a house or or you want this much money and all that stuff. Write a strip, write like a strip and write the story and write it, and that's going to happen. It's going to manifest because I remember when I was doing this play, I put this character and I put him based like on a poet. I was like, okay, like an Edgar Allan Poe type of poet and all that stuff. And then everything that I wrote for that character was based on me. And I was writing for that character. I was kind of feeling that thing, the same thing. And then if you Google Grant Morrison, he's a comic book writer, Grant Morrison. And then he did the same thing when he wrote like a character, he based it on himself. And then when he wrote like his character has his beautiful redhead girlfriend in real life, oh, girl, beautiful redheaded girl came to him and all that stuff. And then he wrote in the comic book that the character got into a car accident. And in real life, he got into a car accident. Then he realized what was going on, and that he can do that. And then I did the same thing. I put like, it's gonna be a crazy long story. Well, not that long. I'll make it short. I wrote a strip like in like I'm gonna have $100,000 by the end of the year, and I wrote it down. And then okay, in the middle, okay, I know this guy that I met that he's it was a trade show. So in the trade show, you have Hollywood entertainment, but there's also the adult entertainment because it's kind of like Hollywood because you're dealing with cameras and performers anyway. So anytime there's a new, it's a licensing show and all that stuff. So then that licensing show, we got to meet Ron Jeremy. And then with Ron Jeremy, because he's trying to like be in regular movies. So he, thinks because we were with Trauma, that makes the Toxic Avenger and all that stuff. And I'm like, I play the Toxic Adventure for Trauma and like appearances and all that stuff. So anyway, so then we made friends with this one guy who was a producer, like for adult film and all that stuff. So then that's the guy we knew, and he was this guy that he has all this money, and then he's like white trash. He doesn't comb his hair. His sofa has like stains in it, and I'm going like, what the fuck? This guy is rich and all that stuff. Anyway, long story short, when I was last in Vegas, he was into pills and all that stuff, and he had a heart attack. So he had died in his freaking apartment. And then because he had like an adult store and all that stuff, he was raking in a lot of money, in that industry, no matter whether no matter the economy is doing bad or whatever, they don't feel it, because people still want to buy their vices, their, whatever, all that. So anyway, so I wound up being in a room with him, a dead body, because my friend, we went to visit him. He was like, oh, he's doing bad and all that stuff. So then the next day we went, and then he was dead in there. And then in the closet was like a whole bunch of cash. I just couldn't find it. I knew that there was in there and all that stuff. And then I had grabbed the keys too. And then I said, like, oh my God, that almost did happen. It's like I didn't rob nobody. He just happened to freaking die, a dead body, there. And then my friend, who was too scared, you know, and it was because he had COVID or whatever. He was old too, and he never took care of himself. Never, always drinking soda. Never drank water. You know, he would make so much money, but he would just drink this Fantasia sodas and had bottle caps in garbage bags. So he was fucking mental. He was a nice guy, but he was mental. But he had no friends. He wanted the filter from his ceiling fans changed. He could just tell anybody in the street, but because he didn't have any friends, he just had me and my other friend. He would tell my other friend like, "Hey, bring Miguel over so you could change the thing on my thing. I'll give him a flight." That's what happens when you have friends with money. They give you a flight, go back and forth, and he was the one that flew me in, and to fly me back out. And then anyway, long story short, the guy comes in and everybody out, because in every situation that when somebody is dead, they want to make sure that that it was natural, that there wasn't a homicide going on, so no evidence is tampered, so they all got to leave. So I guess the people who wound up getting the money was the coroners, because they say like, oh, or whoever those guys are, that they go in, to check the place out and all that stuff. But I was this close, I had the keys. I wasn't aggressive enough to tell my friend, like, hey, I'll be back. I'm going to go and take a taxi, go back there and search for it. And there it is, like more than 200,000. But he was just collecting of everything, even like $100 bills, like $50 bills. It was just interesting guy, but freaking off his rocker. And yeah, but that was going back to writing, that's alchemy too. When you write, when you write.
That's very, very true. I have a chalkboard here and I'm always writing. I have this thing that says I'm so money, and then I have pieces number one. And then I say I have this thing also. It says I am a walking spark generator. Like it's very interesting. I make I make those what they call junk journals, but they should be called glam journals. I make them very beautiful. And there's a girl that I've been helping for 3 years now. Her name is Adriana de Leisa, and I guess I'm her personal psychic or whatever. But she bought 30 books from me and in 2 years. And she said that she writes her music and she manifests it by putting her music in my journals that I made. I didn't know she was going to buy them. I just knew that she was going to buy some, but I didn't know. That's just another way of manifesting that I help people to manifest. If they buy one of my junk journals, or if they even buy one of my books, my DNA is in there. My DNA is in the words, my real self, my love, my passion is there. So if they come in contact with a book, either written or made, like a journal, you can manifest whatever you want. And like I say, a lot of us are part of the Jinn line of the Jesus, right? Jesus and Mary Magdalene line. Stone Hobbit, yes, I just mentioned you where they can join your writing class if they're interested. Thank you for being on. The reason that now there's something that happened to me when there was this lady last year. I met her, but she stopped talking to me because we had gone to a miniature how do you say, a miniature museum here in Tucson. Well, there was 2 agents following us, and then they followed her after she left. Okay, they were following us during the time that we were looking at these miniatures. And verás que suave, there was this miniature where it was the Edwardian times, okay? And we both had an epiphany, like, oh my gosh, we were both writers, and we were both living together. And this is one of our places that we would go visit. And we had a man that was like kind of like our agent or whatever, kind of like Charlie's Angels. But we were in the Edwardian times, wearing our cute little dresses. That was kind of like our cover, like a showgirl, but not showgirl. You know how they used to dress in the 40s, 50s. And we couldn't believe it. And we were followed we had just so many synchronicities happen. And she had given me 2 of her books, and she had signed them for me when I finally met her. Well, she told me, I can't hang out with you. They're following me. the replica app is saying that the agents are still after me and that I can't really see you because a lot of this stuff has been happening to me lately. She just named all kinds of stuff. And then Stone Habit says, happy re-entry day, Firehorse. Yes, Firehorse is awesome. And Firehorse, you know, because we have the fire of the horses, the year of the horse, and the dragon.
Well, you know,
and the Mantids.
The synchronicity, because it was like when it was the day of the fire horse, that's the time that you invited me to come to the show, was on the on the Chinese New Year, fire horse. So that's kind of kind of synchronicity.
Yeah, I love it. And I have a special connection with you, Miguel, like ever since I met you online. And remember, we were planning to meeting each other in New York, and then that's when you met your girl, and then you got married. I was so happy for you. We were supposed to meet, remember? And but what I'm saying is, we're Star Family, and I love it. And your wife too.
Synchronicity, yeah.
And it's so what I did is this lady had given me this heart that she macrameed, and she gave me 3 of them. You know me and my numbers. I love 3 and 13, 33, whatever. And she gives me 3, and then I say it. I'm going to manifest writing my books, because I had like 25 journals laying around from years, you know, like, when am I going to write my books? I'm supposed to write my book. And finally, I just tuned in to, I read her 2 books. I tuned into her energy and that little thing, that macrame that she made. And I'm like, you know what? If she could write, I could write. You know what I'm saying? If she published, I'm going to publish. Even if it's KDP, Amazon, they take 60%. I don't care. I just want it out there. I just knew that before I left Earth, I had to write some books. Okay? Even though, you know, some people say that they hide them, because, you know, Sheila and the 99 is the biggest one, 301 pages. They've been hiding that even from me. I couldn't find it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I had to write down the link. But to make a long story short, you do heal. You're very right, Firehorse. It is alchemy. It's magic. It's the releasing. I was able to release my energy, the feelings that I had. I didn't know where the story was going to go. And boy, oh boy, Stone Hobbit in the group is going to be really happy. They're going to be very surprised, because you're not supposed to say what it is that you're in. Like, the assignment is pick an insect or pick something, and don't tell people what it is, and then let them figure it out, or maybe you can tell them in the end. So I can't wait. I can't say it right now, because I'll say it after in another video, but I can't wait. I have actually been healing myself from a childhood thing, and that went into adult, and it's just amazing. But the characters, like you said, you just start writing and it just flows. The story takes on itself, you know. Se escribe sola.
Yeah, writes itself. Yes.
So I'm excited. Thank you for being on. And what are we going to talk about? Let's do that. Can you do it on Thursday, or oh no, you work Thursday? Let's do it next Monday.
Okay.
Okay, and then you're going to talk about dragons and Mary Magdalene, or cómo le vamos a hacer?
The Falling Angels and all of Hollywood's, Truman Show.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, we'll see you. Love
all right,
you.
take
Thanks
care.
for being on. Okay. I'll put your links down.
No, you don't have to. Just the TikTok one, so you can start seeing the Falling Angels. The TikTok is Firehorse Klaatu, KLAATU, Firehorse Klaatu on TikTok, and then you get to see all the, different characters that fake their deaths and are other characters.
Oh man, and you have been sending me a bunch for years now, and I'm like, oh my gosh, he's right. It's true, because some of us are supposed to live forever here. So you know what I'm saying? Like, how are we gonna do it when you're like, my kids are 100 years old and I'm 1,000, but they don't know I'm here or whatever. We'll see what happens. I don't know. It's just they've tried to delete. They've tried to delete us so many times, like you said. You know, that program of you. You know, did you hear something, or it was a temptation of you to throw yourself off the window? You know, it happened to me with my weapon. So it took 20 doctors to save me. It took you, I don't know it because of these abilities, like we've been talking about the whole show, they want to delete us and they can't. So we can live forever, right? What do you think?
Well, yeah, well, we definitely have higher beings that are protecting us, because the marshal that was supposed to kick me out of my apartment never showed up because he wound up dead in his bed. And I didn't know anything
Oh,
about this until I had to show up to a court meeting again. And I heard the judge talking to the lawyer, the other guy. Yeah, the marshal was supposed to throw him out, but then, this guy died, and I'm like in my mind going like, holy shit, just like
oh,
he died. Well, he was old already, but then going back to the girl in the Philippines, that one of the things, because I was telling her all these stories behind the mysteries, and she kept adding layers going into like, oh, it's because of this. When I told her about the falling angel, she told me this. I told her about the girl that zapped me in the eye. She says there was two other witches slash bitches, and and then I told her about this recent one here, and then what did she told me? What was I saying again? What was I saying?
about the about the guy that was supposed to throw you out the window, he ended up dead.
Oh no, not the one, the marshal that was supposed to throw me out of the house. He never
Oh, okay.
showed up, and then the girl from the Philippines, she goes like, his soul is some entities or whatever trapped his soul somewhere, and I go like, what the fuck? It's like, so what the fuck happened? So maybe it's like, because you don't know. You don't know behind the scenes, whatever guardians you have and all that stuff. Because again, whatever, the dragon said, destiny I have, and I have this protection because he just wound up like, come on, it can't be coincidence that he just happens to have a heart attack and just die on the bed, or else, I'll be out in the street. So that gave me time. So yeah, but anyway, the Mother Dragon knew this was going on. So at some point, and I was protected when the gangs went to jump on me, and I didn't have a scratch on me except for my lip. So I knew that behind the scenes there was also protection going on.
Yeah, and then of course one or two of your alters came into you and you probably bit the shit out of them yourself, but you just black out because that's what happens to me when I turn into a Hulk. I just go with my subconscious takes over when I have to fight. And then at the end, I'm like, oh shit, did I do that? So it could have been something like that too, and protection también, right? But
Yeah.
when you were talking about how the lady in the Philippines was telling you, like, oh yeah, this, and that, my screen turned blue, and then there's an ocean now. That's interesting.
The ocean, okay. That's interesting. Something is ocean.
So Richard, we got kicked out. I don't know how many times. Okay, so I'll let you go now. Where can you be found other than TikTok? How about Facebook?
Nah, let's just keep it at TikTok. I want followers there,
Okay.
just to keep it esoterically. Yeah.
Órale, pues, we'll do that. We'll do what you want. Okay, mijo, we'll see you next time. Thanks for being on Codebreaker Real Talk. See you Monday, same time.
Okay, and thank you for watching, people out there in Cyber Universe. Take care.